Okay, fantastic. We'll let the last bit of people trickle in here as it is now 11:30. Let's begin because we have two fantastic speakers today to talk about today's topic. So I want to make as much time for them as possible. Um, but let me begin by going through a few things as usual. We just want to thank you for being here. If you are unfamiliar with Forward Service Corporation, we are a benefit provider throughout this entire state of Wisconsin, not the entire state, but 41 plus counties. We take referrals to us very seriously. We meet people where they are and have conversations about their needs and cater our services directly to helping them. So we hope that you will consider bookmarking us for the future if we have someone that we can both serve together. If you are new to this forward-thinking session, my name is Landon Solano. I'm a communications specialist here at Forward Service Corporation. I host these sessions as well as moderate our newsletters with the help of our communications team. If you have any questions about these sessions, about our newsletters, or anything else really, you can always email me here at Landon Solano or lsolano@fse-corp.org. Just want to give you a reminder that today's session is going to be recorded, which I know a lot of people have requested because I think it's vacation season based on the out of office replies I've received for the RSVPs. And as a reminder, you can RSVP to these meetings even if you can't attend, and it will get you on the list to receive a recording of the session along with the PDF of the slide decks of both ours and the speakers, and an updated list of our FSC offices across the state of Wisconsin. So let's talk about the topic today, investing in the workforce. We're going to be talking about WIOA, which is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, what it is, the education and training opportunities that it provides, supportive services and resources that we connect people to. But I don't want to step on the toes of our speakers. They're going to be the experts on this. But I found this kind of interesting. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act is the leading workforce development program in the, I hope you can't hear my cat, in the country. And it does that by fully integrating states' workforce and talent to better serve both employers and job seekers. Very excited to see how they do that, how we do that through our speakers today. So without further ado, I want to introduce both of our speakers, Colt Nicholas, a WIOA team lead, and Sharon Adams, adult careers services specialist. Colt, Sharon, I'm so thankful to have you here today. Please feel free to take over and get us going on this conversation about WIOA. I will stop
Awesome.
sharing my screen.
Thanks, Landon. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen and I have a PowerPoint that Sharon and I are going to go through. We're going to talk about WIOA, what it is that we do provide. Very briefly, we'll go over eligibility just to kind of skim through that. And then at the end, I have a really exciting success story that I love to share with people, kind of highlighting all of the cool things we get to do. So I'll try to see if I can figure this out. Um, there we go. This is my screen being shared.
Yep, looks good.
Awesome. Okay. So as Landon mentioned earlier, the WIOA program stands for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. That's why we call it WIOA or WIOA. It's a lot easier to remember. What is the WIOA program? That's a big question we get because there's a lot that goes into WIOA from a federal standpoint, and but what we get to do through Forward Service Corporation is only a small piece of it. So WIOA is federally funded. It's designed to increase self-sufficiency, job retention, and occupational skills. WIOA focuses on helping job seekers access employment, education, training, and supportive services. It promotes the alignment of the workforce investment, education, economic development systems, and it increases access to employment opportunities while improving the quality of the workforce. So as an overall theme, the goal of WIOA is to help individuals find self-sustaining employment in high demand fields. And then we have a couple different programs that we offer and a lot of services that kind of make that happen, which is what really is the exciting part. So right now I'm going to pass it over to Sharon. She's going to cover our adult and dislocated worker programs, and then I'll jump back in after she covers those pieces.
Sharon, you're on mute.
Thought I clicked the right button. Thank
Do it
you.
all the time.
So again, excited to be here. I wanted to introduce, along with Cold, our programs. The Adult and Dislocated Worker Program has some offerings here. Of course, among those are the career exploration and tuition assistance, connections with local employers and job training opportunities. Along with that, we assist with resume building and interview prep, supportive services, and care network connections. One of my favorite parts of working with our participants is making sure that they have the resources they need to be successful on their career path. There are some eligibilities. This really doesn't necessarily come into a lot of play as far as today's presentation, but we do want to let you know 18 years of age or older, eligible to work in the United States and registered for selective service for males 18 years of age or older. And so, of course, those to be eligible to receive those training funds, the individual or household must meet certain income criteria. Again, case by case basis, we go over all of that when we do our eligibility and enrollments. And again, the dislocated worker program, there are these eligibilities as well. Again, 18 years of age or older, U.S. citizen are eligible to work. Again, if you're a male, 18 years of age or older, registered for selective service. And then these 5 categories tell us whether or not you meet one of those, whether or not you are eligible to be in the dislocated worker program for training funds. And a big focus for us here, of course, is the eligible training provider list. That is a special list that focuses on in-demand occupations. So those in-demand occupations consist of, as you can see, a list here of construction, education and health services, professional and business services, transportation, trade and utilities, manufacturing, and being self-employed. So there's a lot of programs and there are a lot of providers on that list. Should your desired occupation not be on that list, we would not be able to provide training dollars. But again, we look at those. There are certainly times that there are exceptions. So just keeping all things in mind that we go through all of these things very carefully when we determine eligibility and through enrollment process.
Awesome. Thanks, Sharon. I'm going to cover the youth program in detail, and then I'm also going to talk about some of our sub-grants that the majority of our areas that we run WIOA in Wisconsin offers right now, but these are also programs that are in most counties across the state, so it may be relevant to you. So I'll kind of talk about those things as well. But to get started, the youth program is different than the adult program in the sense that we don't really provide a lot of tuition assistance except for some specific areas of the state, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But what we really get to do with the youth is help them figure out what they want to do. So I always like to call it an A to Z program. We start with career exploration. We help figure out what they want to do. We develop that plan with them, and then we kind of go from there. And then we have a menu of services that we get to offer these youth that they get to pick from and figure out what's going to work for them and what's going to benefit them. Some of those can include, um, post-secondary preparation, like, applying for college, doing FAFSA, things like that to help them kind of prepare for school. We do job shadowing and skill building. We help them with budgeting and money management, peer mentorship, leadership opportunities. For example, in the past, we've done things like overnight camps. We've done trips to cool places like Lambeau Field, the state capitol, so they could learn about different types of employment opportunities in the state of Wisconsin. We can offer incentives for completing certain services. And then the biggest thing that the youth program really does get to offer is paid work experience opportunities. And paid work experiences, they're unique because Ford Service Corporation, through the WIOA program, gets to find an employer for this person to work at. We'll pay their wages and pay their liability insurance. And that worksite gets a free employee, and the participant gets to try it out. So, for example, we may have somebody that's interested in healthcare, and we might get them a job at a nursing home helping with activities. We can't get them a work experience as a nurse because there's a lot of liability with that, but we can at least get their foot in the door, get their feet wet, and really get to see what it's like to be in that field. So that's a really cool opportunity. With our work experience, we offer paid work experiences, paid internships, and on-the-job training services. So all three of those are different varieties of that service that we can help subsidize, pay the wage, and help that employer out while helping the participant figure out, is this what we want to do? Eligibility for the youth program is very different than the adult and dislocated worker program, as it includes that they have to have a barrier to employment. I'm not going to go into this in detail, but just something to keep in mind that they have to have some sort of barrier, and it can include low income or something else. But what really is important is if you have a young adult or a youth that's aged 14 to 24 that you think would be a good fit for WIOA, send them over to us. Let us figure it out because there's so many different caveats and ways we can make it happen that we don't want somebody to miss out on the opportunity because you may have thought that the barrier that they have was not qualifying. We can see what we can do and see how we can kind of fit them in. But they do have to have a barrier for our youth program.
Zoom, and I'm usually not on Zoom.
So speaking about additional grants, there's 4 specific additional grants that our areas offer right now. The first one is the collaboration of Wisconsin's Rural Healthcare Grant. It's called COW. This grant is targeting healthcare shortages in rural counties of Wisconsin. It's only available in select counties throughout the state. Participants must graduate prior to the end of the grant, and the grant ends December 31st, 2024. One kind of stipulation, which if you're familiar with the Cal Grant or have referred to it in the past, we used to be able to help with 5 or 6 different academic programs. When the grant got extended, we only can enroll new participants if they're going for phlebotomy, medical assistant, or CNA. So we can continue to work with our participants who are already enrolled, but new enrollments, they have to be for those 3 programs in order for us to help with their tuition assistance and supportive services. We have the Quest Grant, which is targeting early childhood shortages across the state of Wisconsin. It helps with obtaining credentials to become an early childhood teacher. Also, we can help pay for in-home certifications for daycare providing, and also supportive services to get them on their feet as an in-home daycare provider. That grant is ending currently end of September. We're waiting on a no-cost extension from the Department of Labor, so hopefully we get to extend this grant out and keep helping some people. This is a really cool one to try to help all of the healthcare or early childhood shortages that we're all well aware of working in human services right now.
Hey, Cole,
yeah.
can I ask just a quick question that came into the chat before we get too
Yeah.
far away from it? Just whether or not you'd mentioned the age group for the youth programs.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'll jump back. So youth, it's 14 to 24 years old, all the way up to their 25th birthday. And we can serve in-school youth and out-of-school youth, and there are some differences there. So an in-school youth can be 14 to 21, and an out-of-school youth can be 16 to 24. And what that means is it's their school status at time of enrollment into our program.
Cool. Hope that answered the question.
Another subgrant that we have is support to communities. This grant is ending in the end of September. I believe all three of our areas that FSC has for WIOA does have this grant, and we still have funding available. And this grant was targeting individuals interested in receiving education to combat substance abuse, or individuals who have experienced substance abuse, whether it's themselves or a family or friend. And this can include alcoholism, drug and addiction, anything like that. So we can help pay for tuition for individuals that meet one of those two categories. We can pay for supportive services and all other career services that were mentioned through the adult and youth programs. And then the last subgrant that we have a lot of these right now, is WAI, or Worker Advancement Initiative. This was COVID dollars through the state of Wisconsin that were set up to target shortages in the workforce due to the pandemic. We were able to aid individuals who have been affected by COVID and are interested in working in specific fields affected by the pandemic. The one thing with WAI, or you may hear it be called WAY, depending on which area you're in. Every area of the state calls it something different. The big difference is each area decided what areas they were going to target for paying for training. So for example, in the area I serve, it was mainly related around transportation, healthcare, and hospitality. But then if you talk to Sharon in her area, it could be completely different. So it depended on what the workforce development boards in that area decided was most affected by the pandemic. And then they wrote the grant that's what they were going to help with. So just something to keep in mind. This grant does end in September. Most of us still do have some funding available for WAI. So short-term trainings are really where it's at now, to try to get them in and through the program before it ends.
Can you give a quick example of what a short-term training might be?
Sure. So for us, for healthcare, it could be CNA. It also could be like a short-term CDL training. We do quite a few of those with some of the private vendors that do 6-week trainings. Some tech schools are doing short-term manufacturing trainings that are offered pretty much consistently. Like, for example, North Central Technical College has a move to manufacturing training, which is 3 or 4 weeks long.
I know that CDLs have wide use among many other programs that we offer.
Absolutely. That's one of the big ones that we fund.
Yeah.
So one thing we did want to mention was differences between the workforce development areas. So the way WIOA is broken down throughout the state of Wisconsin is by what we call a WDA. So the way the funding kind of works is it goes to workforce development boards, and then private nonprofit organizations like Ford Service Corporation apply and run the grants. So there are differences between what they call local plans between each workforce development board. Examples of that may be like in the Fox Valley area where Sharon is, WIOA youth funds can be used to pay for tuition, but in the Bay Area and North Central, which are our other two areas that FSC holds the WIOA grants, we cannot do that. Another example is the amount of money we're allowed to spend on individuals for tuition assistance changes in each area. An example of that is in my area, it's, can go up to $10,000 depending on available funds. Very rarely do we have that much, but that is the maximum we technically can go up to. But then in the Bay Area, I believe it's like 3,500. So it really changes drastically through areas. So what I would encourage is if you have questions about specifics of our WIOA programs, reach out to either the Workforce Development Board or the WIOA, whoever the service provider is in your area, and ask them exactly what it is they do and how they help. If you have anybody interested in WIOA and they're in a Ford Service Corporation region, which would be, as I mentioned, North Central Wisconsin, the Green Bay area going all the way up to Florence, and then the Fox Valley region, the best way to get a hold of us or have a participant get a hold of us is to fill out our WIOA referral form. Actually, on our online, it's called the Contact Us. It's one link. It separates by county, so we make sure that we get it to the appropriate individual to reach out and talk about the next steps. And then the last thing I wanted to share was a success story. I have to admit before I share this, this was one of my participants before I became a team lead. So I'm maybe a little more emotionally connected and I'm biased towards this being the best story I've ever heard. But it's about Sarah. She's super successful. It is a long message that I put all in there. I want to read through it because this is truly inspiring and shows exactly how this program does work. So Sarah was referred to WIOA in 2019. She was a single parent of 2 children, and she wanted to make a change but didn't know how. Sarah had a history of drug usage and had a dream of helping others by becoming an AODA counselor. The WIOA program provided supports to Sarah with applying to school, filling out FAFSA, planning for college. Sarah had stated, the WIOA program made me believe that I could apply for school and be successful. When Sarah first enrolled with WIOA, she worked at a variety of jobs at gas stations and restaurants. WIOA provided support with job search, including resume development and interviewing skills. And Sarah landed her first job at a human services agency as the center cook at CAP Services in Stevens Point in November of 2020. This job opportunity gave Sarah the financial stability needed to go to school and support her family. After her first semester at NTC for substance abuse counseling, Sarah requested tuition assistance through WIOA Adult. Shortly after she enrolled in the adult program, the adult program was able to provide tuition assistance while the youth program continued to provide supports with being successful in college. Later, Sarah co-enrolled in the support communities program to further help with tuition for school. Sarah completed 2 paid internships through the WIOA youth program, providing her with the much needed work experience to obtain full-time employment in the field of her dreams. The most recent internship was as a substance use disorder counselor at the Wausau Comprehensive Treatment Center. Sarah graduated with her associate's degree in substance abuse counseling and a technical diploma in human services from NTC in the spring of 2024. She is working full-time as a social emotional learning specialist at Boys and Girls Club of Portage County. Sarah recently made the statement about her experience with WIOA. My experience with WIOA has been supporting, encouraging, and has helped me succeed in my journey of becoming the person I want to be. One last thing to note that I didn't include in this story is she also won the award from Habitat for Humanity, and she is getting a house built on her behalf for free, and that they're breaking ground this summer. So, like I said, I'm
Wow.
biased.
Yeah,
Best story ever.
that's quite a transformation.
So that's everything that me and Sharon had kind of put together. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Yeah, I'll
stop sharing.
encourage people to put some questions into the chat, and I'll open it up for people to ask in a second. But I thought I'd just kick us off with a few, if you don't mind. So going back to one of your very first slides, you had shown the amount of trainings that we can provide through WIOA. And I'm wondering, it started with construction and ended with self-employment. And while, yes, that's a list, it does seem like there's a little bit of wiggle room for creativity there. Can you talk about like how what was it? You put a quote earlier that said, "Let us figure it out." I really like that. Can you talk about like how you try to find the right fit for a participant looking for training, or if they're asking for something that's not exactly in that list, what sort of creativity you can do with it?
Yeah, so each different workforce development area follows slightly different policies with this. So I'll give the example for our region, which is pretty broad. So it has to be what's considered in demand. And we can use a variety of tools to ensure that it's in demand. We can use labor market information showing that it has a growth rate. We can use job openings in the area, anything like that. So if it's not even in that list of 5, potentially we can provide that assistance if either the participant or the career planner or career service specialist can navigate and find a way to show the demand in our area. Currently we use tools like career cruising, ONET, things like that. So some of those sites to find that labor market information.
Mhm.
As a general rule, most things are still in demand that are programs that schools offer. And part of that training list that Sharon had mentioned, it's called the ETPL. That's a state of Wisconsin list that the Department of Workforce Development runs.
Mhm.
And the training has to be on that list for us to be able to provide the tuition assistance. So for example, if Mid-State Technical College has a certificate and it's not on there, then we cannot provide tuition assistance for that program. So that's the two kind of caveats to it is it has to be in demand in some way, shape, or form, and we have to be able to prove that, and then it has to be on the list.
Interesting. So how does that apply? And is it even popular for the self-employment option that was listed there?
I can't speak too much to self-employment. I haven't seen a lot of that personally outside of
Mhm.
early childhood.
Okay.
Um,
Which is
so
needed.
we have seen upskilling with that somebody already has, a business or something like that, and they want to kind of continue schooling. We have to make sure that the business that they're running is solvent and it's going to be successful, and then we can kind of go that route and showing that
Right.
it's in demand and the labor market info makes sense.
Interesting. Okay. We have a question here in the chat. It says, for the youth program, what kind of severity of disability does a youth need? Example, youth not receiving SSI benefits, but diagnosed with high functioning autism or ADHD. Would this qualify as disabled?
Excellent question. Yeah, disability is definitely a delicate kind of conversation to have with a potential participant. For WIOA's uh, definition of disability, it's very broad. So it can include um, any type of disability that you can basically think of. So it can, and it's all self-attestation. So it can be um, anxiety, depression, documented disabilities like cognitive, emotional, physical. And then it also can include like behavioral things in school. So if they had an IEP or a 504 in school, that can also count for them. Um, when the specific question about severity of the disability, things to keep in mind is the WIOA youth program does not offer job coaching. So
Mhm.
we don't have funds for job coaches. So the best way I've always kind of described it is whoever's doing the referral, if you feel like the individual you're referring is able to work on their own, then they're a good fit for us. If they're going to need those additional supports, we would recommend referring over to something like DVR, which is also technically a WIOA program under a different title.
Mm.
So it's kind of depends, but high functioning autism, absolutely. That's actually one of the examples of a disability that we certainly can serve without having job coaches and things like that in place. Um, but it's definitely individual basis. And when we don't feel like we're a good service provider for them, then we do make those referrals to that person to DVR typically.
Cool. We've got a couple of other questions coming into the chat. I will put my questions on the back burner. Just going in order, what if a student is receiving financial aid for their training? Does WIOA still work with students? And if so, in what ways?
Absolutely. So our goal is that when somebody's receiving financial aid, which we probably should have included that in the eligibility, in order to receive tuition assistance through us, they have to apply for financial aid if it's a financial aid eligible program. So which is basically anything but a short-term certificate program. So they have to apply for financial aid. And our goal is that they don't have to take out loans. That's our ultimate goal. Obviously, it doesn't always happen that way. We do have limited funding. We have budgets we have to adhere to as well. And the amount of the tuition does play a factor. So the way it works though is if they're receiving $2,000 in federal Pell Grants and their tuition's $3,000, our goal is that we would cover that extra $1,000. Um, we do sometimes overlap a little bit and then they can get a refund. That all depends on the workforce development area and what they allow and how it works. And then each school, how they apply financial aid and our grants changes. So some of them count us as a grant and it gets lumped right into their financial aid package when that starts. And then others will not apply our grant until they apply FAFSA, the financial aid first. And then they'll just take the remainder if we overpaid. So it really varies, but yes, we absolutely do work with financial aid and how that all kind of bundles together.
Fantastic. And everyone, as I read your questions, you still need things answered, please put that in the chat so that I make sure your questions are being answered to the fullest. Moving on to the next question. Do you have slash run out of training dollars? If yes, can you get more?
So for us, yes, each year we get a budget. It's from July 1st to June 30th, and we do run out of training dollars pretty much typically every year. We try to budget it out that we can help everybody through their spring and summer semesters if we can. And then July 1st, we get new funding. If that answers that question, but then if that question was more related to if a participant met their maximum allowance, then they can technically go over, depending on the workforce development area's rules and how they want to do a review on that to see if it's applicable to go over their lifetime limits.
Okay, got it. So just a continued conversation and assessment of the case and everything.
Absolutely.
Okay. Moving on, Vicky, you said you have a question about STC. Feel free to put it on the mic. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I'd never heard of this. Is it available in Brown County? And can you give me a little bit more information on what it involves?
Yeah, I'm not absolutely positive on if it's available in Brown County. I think Support to Communities was available statewide. But it is ending in September. So essentially it was to target AODA issues across the state of Wisconsin. You have to be underemployed or unemployed in order to qualify, or below income, which was part of being underemployed. And then you have to either have been affected by substance abuse in one way or another, or be going into a career field or wanting training to combat it, which would include like a substance abuse counselor degree, human services degrees, things like that. With it ending at end of September, funding is definitely more limited, and then the participant has to graduate by the time the grant ends. So unfortunately, new enrollments for Support to Communities are going to be limited, with summer semester already started and fall semester won't end until after the grant ends.
Okay, so you don't think there's more funding coming? That'll be the end of it?
That'll be the end of the Support to Communities grant. There is rumor that DWD and DOL are working on a new grant that'll be very similar, but I haven't heard any details on it or if it's going to actually happen or be rolled out. I just know that they were talking about it. And I think they were going to call it the Forward Grant if it does happen, but I don't know any details on it.
Okay, well, keep us informed because, you know,
Absolutely.
I work with, I'm on the board of Amanda's house, and there's people there that live there that are in recovery, but, you know, conversations are they would like to go to school and, you know, get their counseling degree. So,
and those individuals certainly could still apply for WIOA, and we could help pay for that counseling degree through that. That's just the best we could.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then I had one other question on the disability for youth, or if, you know, if they have a disability, does it still go on income, or if somebody has a disability, they would qualify no matter what the income would be of the household or the person?
Great question. That is actually differs if they're an in-school youth versus out-of-school youth. So for an in-school youth, if they have a disability, they're considered a family of one, and we would take only the individual's income, and they would have to be below 100% of FPL. If they're an out-of-school youth, they can be over income with a disability.
Oh, interesting. I never
It
knew
is.
that.
Yeah,
that's something we all should know.
the eligibility for the youth program for WIOA is very tricky.
Yeah.
A lot of if this, then that's.
Okay. Sounds good. I have to leave because I have to go to the front desk, but thank you. It was very interesting.
Thank you, Vicky. We've got a lot more questions here, so I'm just going to keep trucking along here. In many areas, we run multiple programs. Do we co-enroll with each other to utilize necessary services and dollars? So in other programs.
Yeah, 100%. So across WIOA, Sarah's story is a great example of that. She was co-enrolled across 3 different grants that week we administer. Sarah was also actually in W-2. That's how she was referred to us originally. So we do work with W-2, DVR, FSET, probation and parole, etc. Co-enroll, we talk to each other, we get releases signed, so that way we make sure that we're not double dipping. That is one of the policies of WIOA, is that if they're receiving any other type of public assistance, we cannot pay for the exact same service or overlap in the amounts that we're covering. But yeah, with WIOA in specific, we co-enroll all the time. A youth co-enrolls into the adult program to receive tuition assistance. Adults and dislocated worker, we can co-enroll there. It's never ending.
Yeah. And I guess that opens up an opportunity for a shameless plug to go to our website, fsc-corp.org, to see all of our program offerings that you can co-enroll and maximize the amount of benefits that you can get. Okay, keeping things moving. We have someone that says, I have a young lady and wants to do X-ray tech program, an X-ray tech program. Is that a short-term program that you can help with?
Yeah, X-ray tech, it would depend on each school and if it's on the approved training provider list that the state offers. What I would encourage you to do is reach out to WIOA in your specific area. So you can use the contact us, or if you have the contact info for the team lead or a career planner, career service specialist, reach out to them and they can check the list specifically for that school that you're interested in. Since that is a certificate program, each school varies. But if it's an associate's degree, I would almost say for sure it's going to be on there.
Fantastic. This is a follow-up to a previous question. Does the family have to be low income with the youth program when the youth has a disability?
Yep. So just like I mentioned earlier, for in-school youth, it's a family of one. So we don't take the rest of the family's income into consideration for determining their eligibility. And for an out-of-school youth, they would not have to be low income if they have a disability.
Okay. How long is the process to receive services? Just thinking about the time frame before a semester would begin and paying their fees.
That's a really good question. It does differ per area. I know my region, we prefer 3 weeks or more before the semester starts as the latest that we would take a new referral and try to get them in for that semester. It does take about 3 appointments to enroll somebody. It would be an intake appointment, an eligibility appointment, and then an enrollment appointment. So it's about 3 hours worth of work with a career planner, career service specialist. And then they would be able to enroll. So that's where if we can have about 3 weeks, that's really optimal. Special circumstances, we do try to, make it happen a little faster if we can, but calendars do fill up.
Thanks. And sorry, I just took over the screen because we have the website here and a QR code if people want to start exploring some of these things, just for convenience for them. For the adult program, does the person need a referral, or could the interested person contact Forward Service Corporation directly about the program?
Absolutely. We do not discriminate on how somebody wants to reach out to us. Obviously, it's the easiest if they fill out the contact us, which the participant can fill that out, or a service provider can fill that out. But they can also just email, call, whatever. Or if you're the service provider and you want to give us their information or make the connection, we're happy to make that connection however it works for you and that person.
Awesome. And you can do that on our website, which is now on your screen. I mean, my questions, I guess, are all very different than what everyone else is asking, so I don't even know how applicable they are. But for my own curiosity, and since we just have, an extra minute here, I guess this is kind of a question for both of you. There's a slide about the youth services, selective services. Is there something like that for adults?
For support services, you mean?
Was it support? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The support services, not the selective services.
Yeah. All 3 of our grants offer supportive services. It does depend on available funds. Support services can include mileage reimbursement to school and back, childcare assistance while they're in school, work clothes, school supplies, etc. It definitely, really does depend on our budget that we have available and how much we can help with each
Yeah.
program year. Also, we do, as a policy of the program, is we have to make sure that we exhaust any other resources like offset, clothing closets, things like that first.
So it helps to be co-enrolled in other programs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. And just to kind of summarize all of this, I mean, this is to help remove all the obstacles that is necessary for people to get the education that they need for being able to step into the job that they want. Does WIOA potentially help with childcare costs?
It is a support service we can provide. For example, if somebody's going to school, we can help pay for childcare during the hours that they're at school. We can potentially do it for a new job for up to a certain period of time. The only issue with that is how much childcare costs and how limited our budgets are. They can eat up a budget really fast. So it just really depends on the need and how much we have and which subgrants we can get them co-enrolled in. We have done it a couple times in the last year, but it's not a common support service we provide.
Fantastic. Well, that's all the questions I have. I guess you can, everyone can continue putting questions if you have any in the chat, while I just kind of run through some admin stuff here on the final. I rarely get to do the end of my presentation here because we're always at time, so kind of excited, but feel free to continue to put questions in if you have them. I just want to mention a few things about these presentations and Forward Service Corporation in general. We are on social media. It's a great resource for partners like you, as well as the people that we all serve, because we put out resources. We put out events, on-site events for getting people enrolled in some of our programs, as well as inspirational stories. Please check us out on any of our social media channels. We're constantly putting out stuff on our YouTube channel as well. So you can find us just by searching Forward Service Corporation at any of those places. If you have a minute, the link here and the QR code will send you to just like a 3-question survey that helps us to build out these sessions in the future. We want to know what topics you're interested in. You can fill that out and we will take your feedback very seriously. Of course, you can ask us any questions as well. It's all anonymous and we really appreciate it. And that's, I guess, the end of my presentation. Colt, Sharon, do you have any final words or thoughts that we didn't cover that you'd like to touch on?
Just want to say thank you, Landon. And if anybody has anybody, honestly, like the WIOA program really can make a huge difference in a lot of individuals' lives. We really try to make sure that we serve those individuals uniquely, individually, provide the menu of services and let them determine how they want to be served and what they want to receive from us. So it's a really cool program in that sense that it's really up to the participant.
Fantastic. Well, Colt and Sharon, I want to thank you both for being here and your wonderful information. Judging by the amount of questions we had, I think it was very well received. So thank you both. And I want to thank everyone else who attended today for being here. Please join us next month. We're going to be talking about fatherhood. It's going to be a really interesting topic. We've got a great speaker from UW coming. So we hope to see you then. And thank you all for attending today. We'll see you in a month.